A surprise for fans celebrating Yakuza's 10th anniversary, Kiwami came out of nowhere. A from-the-ground-up remake of the original 2005 Sega masterpiece, Kiwami takes the Yakuza 0 engine and retells the story of Kazuma Kiryu and Haruka Sawamura as they fight through Kamurocho's usual horde of Yakuza, thugs, and maniacs to find Haruka's mother and a recently missing 10 billion yen. Kiwami was made on a smaller budget to fill the gap between Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 6's release. It's more than a simple upscaling like the Riga Gotoku HD collection. There's new story elements, character motivations, mini-games, and sub-stories. For a budget-priced title, there's more than enough content here to keep any long-term fan or person new to the series happy. Those going into the game right from zero expecting the same brash protagonists from the previous might be a little bit disappointed. The young Kiryu is gone, replaced with a more stoic, silent person. There's a few moments, especially in sub-stories, where his personality from zero peeks through, but for the most part, this is Kiryu that's grown up. The game is darker and more melodramatic than any other in the series, so anyone going from zero to Kiwami expects something I'll be talking about a lot in this review: a tonal dissonance. Being a remake of a PlayStation 2 game from the time when Sega themselves were going through a lot of internal changes, the story of Yakuza 1 is one of the strongest in the series. A slower burn than the others, it takes its time to get you invested in each of the characters, especially our hero Kiryu. The first hour can drag as you're slowly pulled into the criminal underworld. Once you start going though, the game rockets by, and if you're just following the story, the pacing is amazing. If you're trying to go for 100% completion, thanks to a bunch of streamlined systems, it's actually pretty doable. Except for Mahjong. No one likes Mahjong. Trying to find the balance between side content and the main story is what makes the game so much fun to come back to. Compared to Zero, it's now a single location. Having so many activities and sub-stories packed into one place is what I would call comfortable. Even though this is a remake, that didn't stop Riga Gotoku Studio from adding new features to the game. The ability to save anywhere from the pause menu is something the series has been lacking since the first, and the new arcade game Mesu King, the fantastic parody of an actual Sega arcade game that released the same year as Yakuza 1, is actually pretty fun and a nice touch for the time period. The biggest addition this time around though is the Majima Everywhere system. Early in the game, you'll be challenged by Majima to regain the power of a dragon. After some shenanigans, Majima will hatch a plan to follow Kiryu around the city and attack him at every opportunity, pretty much turning Majima into the nemesis. The idea was to give fans of Yakuza 1 and Majima fans something unexpected that could happen throughout the game that would always be exciting. Having Majima pop out of a manhole while you're just wandering the streets and low on health can lead to some of the more clutch moments. This is a bit of a double-edged sword though. While Majima Everywhere's system is fun, it can get a bit tiring. Trying to head to the next checkpoint or just in the middle of a sub-story and having an impromptu boss fight got a little bit much. Luckily, like most systems in Yakuza, it never really overstays its welcome. As you fight him off and rank up, he'll take a break as you wrap up the chapter, before coming back twice as strong next time. It's a little annoying when you've got a plan and Majima gets in your way, but as long as you stock up on staminans and upgrade the hell out of the rush style as soon as you can, you shouldn't have a problem. One of the parts of this game that continuously got a laugh out of me was the non-battle scenarios you'd find him in. I don't want to spoil them all, but try taking your photo in a Club Sega or look out the window in a Popo Mart from time to time. It's great. The 4 fighting styles of Yakuza 0 make a return. You'll start off the game with access to everything, seeing what it's like to be a fully upgraded badass before the story unfolds and you lose most of your strength. Instead of investing money as you defeat enemies and complete sub-stories, you'll learn levels which can be traded in to recover your skills. There is no higher tier of skills to unlock this time, allowing you to grab all of your abilities as you want them. Except the Dragon of Dojima style, which is now hidden behind the Majima Everywhere system and special training. To get access back to this style, you'll need to defeat higher and higher level of Majimas and complete all of Kamaki's training. This gets a little tedious, and for some players may make unlocking Kiryu's ultimate style more trouble than it's worth. The Dragon style was built to be overpowered to be given to players as a reward for completing the hardest parts of the game. But by the time you'll unlock it, you'll more than likely be done with the story and just doing wrap up on checklists as you go for 100%. It's a good addition, but it could have been delivered in a more interesting way. The music this time around is a bit of a mixed bag and will very much leave you in two minds. Compared to the music of Yakuza 1, the new and remix tracks leave a little to be desired, going for techno and dubstep remixes of the originals. It's great to hear a fresh take on some of the classic songs, but for me, none of them ever hit the heights of the original score. And this is an area where I'm going to say the localization dropped the ball. Replacing the intro track, which at this point is to be expected but still, with the installation screen music, totally changes the tone of the game. The Japanese title track was a more heartfelt song, setting a tone of loss for the game. Lost friends, lost time, lost lovers. The new track, being a harder dance track, dismisses that tone. While it's not a deal breaker, it should have been replaced with something a little more reserved. Likewise, the game's touchstone track Receive You Reborn, a new version of the song that was instrumental in the original, is also bizarrely missing. This wouldn't be too noticeable if small musical stings of Receive You didn't appear throughout Kiwami. The problem is, these two tracks are one of the things that Kiwami was a celebration of. Any other title, I can understand them being missing, but in this specific game, where they're so important to the message, it feels a little disheartening to have different songs in their place. Graphically, the game has two modes, absolutely gorgeous and is this a PS2 game? Though Kiwami is on a supposedly enhanced version of the Zero engine, it's a shame these couldn't have been fixed up before release. Playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro with boost mode, while the loading times are great, that doesn't stop major amounts of pop-in, slowdown, and muddied character models that litter the streets. Unless you're basically standing right next to an NPC, you would swear you were playing the original PS2 release. The textures somehow seem worse than Yakuza 0, and the reused character models and animations are everywhere. I think that's what Kiwami is for me. A title at war with what it once was and what it is now. The original game always had the goofy sub-stories, but the over-the-top nature of the latest games, especially anytime Kiryu interacts with children, seem out of place in the darker Japanese underworld. Kiryu's original dialogue makes him out to be a more stoic man than the one depicted in any game after 2, and the Majima Everywhere system takes what should be an intimidating force of nature and turns him into comic relief. Majima's character on either side isn't bad, but having him show up in both the story and free play, usually close to each other, is a little jarring. It's hard to think of the character that was hiding under a giant cone one moment as a threat while he molests a hostess and kidnaps Haruka another. One of the things I actually like but seem a little stiff are the animations during the story. I swear they were lifted right from the Yakuza 1 archive and pasted in the base for each scene. It's great to see cutscenes play out exactly as you remember them, but some of the over-the-top moments make the title seem at odds with itself. When something new is thrown into the mix, any of the new cutscenes especially starring Nishikiyama, it's immediately recognizable that they were created with a more modern eye. So where does Kiwami stand in terms of Yakuza titles? It's not a complete remake of Yakuza 1, the tone is all over the place, but the new story, side quests, and minigames are fun. It doesn't drag, and getting to see how Nishiki became the way he is one of the high points of the series, and really something you can only appreciate after playing Yakuza 0 and the other titles. Kiwami even continues sub-stories from 0, that we end up getting closure for in 6. What this game came down to for me personally is the setting and tone. Like I mentioned earlier, Kiwami is comfortable. Like being back with a best friend you haven't seen since college. It takes a little getting used to the changes, and maybe not everything is as you remember it, but once you're caught up and pushed through that awkward stage, you'll be back with the same feeling that made you fall in love with the world in the first place. Yakuza Kiwami is one of the best deals and the best games released this year. Releasing less than 6 months after Yakuza 0 hit the West, Kiwami's quick turnaround and low price point make it one of the standout titles of the year. If you're looking for your Yakuza fix, or you're new to the series, it's hard not to recommend. It's not the definitive edition of Yakuza 1, but it's close. And while it never reaches the same heights, being back in Kamurocho and getting to see where it all started again is something I'm glad everyone can get a chance to experience.